Hello, candidates. Again, we are here for paper 3, Mr. Amuom, and I want us to once again look at these questions with a view to enriching our understanding and response to the questions in paper 3. Now, our topic for today is how to respond to essay questions from Adolf's House by Henrik Ibsen. I want to be a bit detailed, and this is about essay writing, and our effort is to subscribe to next standards. What does this mean? That we must have an introduction which must underscore the following. One, the link. So in the link, a candidate may decide to echo the text, or the candidate may go straight away to the character or the event. It must also be independent, meaning devoid of words like as seen below. So when you make such a phrase, then you tie that paragraph to other subsequent paragraphs, and therefore you don't score. As follows, these words, those phrases are supposed to are misleading and are supposed to be avoided. The body must have the following. One, episodic sentences, which must answer the questions at hand. The episodic sentences must must be at least 4 or more. However, this should not go beyond 450 words, lest a penalty of 2 marks is imposed. Now, the body of an essay should reflect all sides. Now, in most cases, we have said before that next questions go for essays that are two-sided, or sometimes we say such questions are too tired. Then lastly, the how of the question should form the basis of the essay. Note that this section of essay writing is very important, since the marks a candidate gets in the body directly influence the scores in grammar and conclusion sections. Now we are saying that the body is very important because it will dictate what the candidate gets in the linguistic mark the candidate gets and the conclusion mark the candidate gets. Now another part that is equally important is the conclusion. We have said before that a candidate, this part must be on its own. It has to be relevant, it has to be valid, and it must be independent. Now the grammar mark is what we were talking about. In most cases, the grammar mark is 4. That is the next standard, and we should know that these marks are tied to the body. Again, it is also important to borrow aspects of good features in composition writing and bring them on board. The phrase of verbs, the sentence variation, the vocabulary, and all that. Now we want to look at this sample essay, and today we want to look at a vice, a question on a vice. Choices have consequences. Write an essay to justify this saying. Refer to Henrik Ibsen's Adolf's House for illustrations. Now what is important in the interpretation of this question? One, the words, the choices the characters make, and the consequences that they suffer. Suitable characters or the text. This is the book or the event or the link, and that is what we do. So the choices made and the consequences, the two are the text. Then we have the link that we can bring forth through characterization, through echoing of the text. And this is what we have as our sample introduction. And I've chosen to go for the text. In Adolf's house, this is our links. Individuals make certain decisions which turn out to be detrimental to them. By the end of that, do we have the link? Yes. We have the text, the decisions that the choices are made through the word, the decisions, and then the fact that they turn out, that is the consequence, to be detrimental. And we can go specific, and I want to say that I want to encourage all our candidates to go for 2 sentences, because if the first sentence has a challenge, as the loophole. Then the second part seals it. Nora, for instance, takes a loan against the societal expectations. A hyphen, something that finally leads to a separation between Toban and she. Now look at this hyphen. This is an indication of maturity in punctuation, and that is what we were saying are qualities, are features of a good composition writing. Now we are working with the tagging the question as C because of choices. Nora chooses to take a loan to meet medical expenses for Tobert, something that puts her under the whims of Krogstad. So this is the consequence. This is the choice. Now the choice made by Nora is in page 18, 19, and 37. You will see Nora taking a loan in these pages. Then the consequences, the aftermath, the fact that she's now under the mercy of Krogstad is seen in page 38 and page 39 and finally in page 41. So we already have the topical sentence that is episodic. We have the details of the choice made. We must have the consequences, the details of the consequences as brought out in those pages. In C2, we are talking about another character. Mrs. Linde chooses to abandon Krogstad for a richer man, only to become lonely when the husband dies, leaving her without nothing. Choices made by Mrs. Linde is in page 14, and we can look at that, page 14, so that the candidates can see what to do. Why did Mrs. Linde have to marry the rich man? We find this in page 14, the last statement that is made by Nora. The last sentence. Tell me, is it really true that you did not love your husband? Why did you marry him? Then Mrs. Linde, my mother was alive then and was bedridden and helpless. I had to provide for my two younger brothers. So I did not think I was justified in refusing his offer. We have seen Mrs. Linde accepting the choice, that she actually decided not to marry this man because of love, but because the man had prospects of lifting the status of the bedridden mother and the younger siblings that were in her hands. Now, if you look at page 10, you will see the consequences, and it is here. The second Nora, poor Christy, you are a widow. So widowhood is a consequence of Nora's opting to marry a rich man. Yes, it is. It is 3 years ago. The next Nora, it was very bad of me, Christine, poor thing. How you must have suffered, and he left you nothing. No, and no children. No, nothing at all. Then, not even any sorrow or grief to live upon. That is in page 10. Then if you look at page 11, it sometimes happens, Nora, so you are quite alone. How dreadfully sad that must have been. So the sadness and the loneliness that is seen are the consequences that have been brought about by Mrs. Linde opting to go into this marriage. We can see a bit of it in page 15, the first Mrs. Linde. No, indeed, I only feel my life unspeakably empty. So the consequences, Mrs. Linde accepts. So that bit of empty must come out in the candidate's work. No one to live for anymore. That was why I could not stand the life in my little backwater any longer. I hope it may be easier here to find something which will busy me and occupy my thoughts. If only I could have the good luck to get some regular office work of some kind. So Mrs. Linde again is admitting emptiness, sadness, loneliness, and the consequences. Those words must feature in a candidate's work in order for that candidate to score a full. Now we are going to C3, and we are seeing another person that makes a wrong choice. Tobal chooses to tongue lash Nora instead of standing by her during her humiliation by Krogstad. He finally suffers embarrassment when Nora leaves. The choice made by Tobal is in page 103, is in page 104, is in page 105. The consequences are in page 107, 109, and 110. We have the third point. Dr. Rang's father decides to lead a reckless life, which weighs heavily on Rang's health. So Rang is suffering from a spinal disease, but we are told that he inherited this disease from his father, who happened to have been, who could have enjoyed himself so much. They talk of his youthful amusement. They talk of his consumption of oyster. They talk of the champagne, and therefore we are regretting that this gentleman finally tells us that he is a wretched man. This gentleman tells us finally that he is terminally ill. This man tells us that he is staring death in the face. So these are consequences of the father's what? The father's immoral characters that finally weighs down on his son. Now, again, let us remember that such a work must be concluded, and we have in conclusion. That statement is important because it is deliberate. It is good to look before one leaps. Now, in this essay, we have decided to conclude this essay with a proverb. Look before you leap. And therefore, the look before you leap. These people have got themselves into problems because they leapt before they looked. And that is, so in such a context, a conclusion can be done using a proverb if it fits the circumstances that we have. We have a question for homework. Determination is the key to success. I want us to underscore this is another question that is targeting a virtue. Write an essay to illustrate this saying. But remember the last part, refer to Nora in a doll's house. So the answers must be restricted. The episodes must only point to instances where Nora is determined and the success. So we have two tie again, determination, and we have the other tie, the success. I want to wish you the very best as you keep safe during this time.